What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Robin is about to drop very soon, and I thought it was very appropriate to drop a support tier list to see where Robin stands in this list. This is going to be a list of every character that helps your main DPS or your main DPSs deal more damage. This includes all the Harmony characters and a few of the Nihility characters. And I know what you're going to say,
Robin hasn't even been released yet.
I have been in communication with people that have tested her out. I have seen numbers. I have seen stuff that you guys probably have not seen. So this is a preliminary placement, so she may go up, she may go down, but I'm pretty confident she's going to stay where I put her in this list. Also, if you are going to pull for Robin, I have something for you. Lootbar.gg is a third-party top-up platform in which you can get Oneric shards or Genesis crystals for Genshin Impact at a discounted price, almost at a 20% discount. That is a lot of money. Check the link in the description, lootbar.gg, to select Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact if you're buying for Genshin Impact. In the top right, you're going to paste your UID under UID and select your server. That is all the information they require from your account. You don't need to put in your password, your Hoyo ID, nothing like that. And then over here is where you're going to select what you're going to purchase. In game, it would have been $300. Here in lootbar.gg is going to be $250. So let's go ahead and click top up now. Select your payment method. Obviously, this is going to be blurred out for you. Click pay now. And there you go. The Jades already showed up. I didn't even notice they were there. You can see you can just like transform them like that, you know. Check the link in the description, lootbar.gg. All right, starting off with Asta. Asta is one of those characters that buffs your entire team. Until you get some Eidolons on her, she is going to feel a little bit clunky because her stacks are going to fall off pretty quickly. However, if you're able to maintain the 5 stacks, she gives you a very hefty attack buff. She gives you a really significant speed buff. And if you're running a fire team, she also buffs your fire damage. She's very decent for dot teams and teams like follow-up attack teams that need attack increases, because follow-up attackers usually have lower attacks because they need so many crit and crit damage stats. So even though she doesn't buff any crit stats, her attack buff is pretty significant. It's about 72% or something like that. And then her speed also really helps follow-up attackers. Really good for pure fiction. One of the characters that I usually use for pure fiction in my Black Swan team. A very strong character that's able to buff an entire party and gives him a lot of speed, gives you a lot of turns. Very solid pick, but there's just other characters that buff, that do her job a little bit better. And when I say her job, I mean buff the entirety of the party and does it a little bit better. So Asta, solid character, B tier for me. All right, next up we got Silverwolf. I'm going to play Silverwolf in S, but Silverwolf is tiptoeing between S and A, and the only problem with Silverwolf is that it's very RNG heavy. So if you don't run a team that's either hyper focused on one type of character, like for instance Quantum or a secondary type, odds are that you're probably not going to hit the weakness implant as much as you want. So she does require a lot of planning, but aside from that, she has a lot of debuffs that she can implement on the enemy. A lot of them are defense based, so her defense reduction is probably the biggest defense reductions in the game, and with some of the Lycons that she has access to, she can reduce your enemy's defense by about 60% all by herself. So she's very strong as a defense shredder. Also, she's very strong at applying debuffs. So for characters like Dr. Ratio and Acheron, which pretty much Acheron is the best DPS in the game, she's very invaluable because her basic attack actually implants a debuff. So she is able to generate skill points at the same time as enabling Acheron to do her thing. For Dr. Ratio, she implants a total of like 5 different debuffs that she can do, excluding the Lycon if you run Resolution Process Sweat or her own. So she implants a lot of debuffs, even with her basic attack. So DPSs that require debuffs to be a thing, Silverwolf will enable a lot of damage to come their way, as well as her own break damage. She has the potential, if you build her for break damage, she has the potential of doing a lot of break damage, because Quantum is one of the types that has the highest damage threshold because of the stack mechanic. So extremely strong character. The only fault with her is that her skill point efficiency is not that great, but you can also just play her as a skill point generator spammer if you're only trying to get debuffs into the enemy. All right, next up we got Bronya. She's a standard banner price pool. Everybody that's pulling on the standard banner or pulls in a standard banner or loses a 50-50 hopes that is Bronya, because she is just that great. The only problem she has is that she is very skill point inefficient, and that's pretty much the only problem she has. Aside from that, she gives you attack, she gives you a damage bonus, she gives you crit damage bonus, she gives you defense. She gives you so much in just one kit. She has one of the best abilities in the game. The ultimate is fantastic. And she also kind of a little bit remediates her own downfalls with her Eidolons or with her Lycon, which you can get for free if you use your currency correctly. So overall, Bronya is a very strong character. Obviously, Sparkle came out and kind of eclipsed what Bronya did. Only a few characters remain with Bronya. For instance, Jingliu and Blade are the ones that remain with Bronya because Bronya does offer stronger buffs than Sparkle, but she uses all the skill points. So you need characters that don't use any skill points so you're able to run Bronya instead because you get the higher damage amplifying boost. Overall, extremely strong character right here. I'm gonna place her on S. All right, next up, Black Swan, and you may be wondering, oh, Black Swan, she's a dot character, she's a DPS, blah blah blah. Well, I think Black Swan is pretty much a 5-star Pela, and when you actually do the calculations of what the debuffs are, Black Swan's buffs are actually slightly better than Pela's. So, and she can be played the exact same way that Pela's been played, because Pela doesn't have a debuff on her basic attack. She does have a debuff on her skill, which also Pela does, and they both have a debuff on their ultimate, both of which amplify damage. Pela's ultimate obviously is defense shred, but Black Swan has a similar defense shred. Not a similar, she has a kind of comparable defense shred in her skill that she can implement to 3 people every turn that she needs it. So you don't have to wait till her ultimate's up. You can just do it constantly. You can play her skill point positive, you can play her skill point neutral. And for teams that require 1, nihility characters, and 2, that thrive off ultimate damage, kind of like Acheron, Black Swan is a perfect partner because her vulnerability debuff, which can only be accessed in the opponent's turn, you can just wait until the opponent's turn comes up and then blast off with Acheron's ultimate, and then that's gonna induce on the enemy 25% vulnerability debuff, which is an insane amount of debuff aside from the 20.8% defense reduction. And if you run the Resolute Jambroso Sweat, that's an extra 16%. So 36% defense reduction, 25% vulnerability debuff on every enemy on the field is, I can't express how massive these damage amplification debuffs are. Aside from that, she does more damage than Pela, so it's just a no-brainer for me to like put her on S tier as a debuffer. I don't understand how people just like completely disregard the fact that she has these debuffs in her kit that also help herself and help her in the dot team, but she can also be used to help a DPS do her thing, especially Acheron. Let's just talk about Acheron because we're always talking about Acheron. She has a debuff that implements every time you skill. Every time you base it, you can implement a debuff also. When you ultimate, she implements a debuff. Perfect partner for Acheron because Acheron hits everybody. She can pretty much hit everybody with her ultimate and then blast with her skill. I said it before she came out, she is a 5-star Pela, and everybody kind of like brushed me away, like kind of ignored it. But she kind of is, and if you run calculations, you know that the debuff amplification that Black Swan brings is pretty similar to what Pela brings as well. So very comfortable in putting Black Swan there in the S tier as a debuffer. All right, next up we have Hanya, and Hanya and Asta are actually pretty similar. They both give you speed, they both give you attack. But Hanya has something, or 2 things I should say, that just set her apart from Asta, and this is the reason that she's a tier above. So Hanya gives you a lot of speed, more speed than Asta, and gives you a little bit less attack than Asta, but she also gives you a damage bonus. She gives you a very significant damage bonus with her skill that inflicts burden on the enemy, and then also with the same skill, she can give you skill points back. So she actually plays skill point neutral while at the same time buffing your team, which is something that not a lot of these characters can do. And I think you're starting to see a trend in skill point neutrality or skill point efficiency really plays a role in what supports can do, because if you're gonna buff your team to oblivion, you're gonna give them all the best supports, all the best buffs, but the team doesn't have any skill points to play off of it, then you might as well not give him any buffs, you know? So Hanya kind of like mitigates her own skill point inefficiency because her buffs depend on her skill by giving you a skill point or 2 skill points back. So she essentially comes back as like skill point neutral, sometimes skill point positive depending on how you play her. So Hanya, very strong character. I think she's one of the characters that most people don't really like look at. It's kind of the same thing as Asta, like people don't really use them because we have so many good broken S tier and S plus tier characters. But Hanya is a very strong character, especially in a team with the upcoming character Robin. She's going to be the one, she's going to give Robin, and she's going to give the entire team a lot of damage bonuses because she buffs damage, she buffs attack, she buffs speed. This is everything that your team needs. And also she gives you skill points, which is something that Robin kind of struggles with. So Hanya is pretty much the perfect second partner to Robin. A lot of people are not ready for that conversation yet, but yeah, Hanya, extremely strong. If you have her and you don't have any of the other buffers, Hanya is a very good character to invest in. I can't stress that enough. All right, next up we got Pela. I'm going to put Pela in front of Bronya. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, didn't you say just she was the same as Black Swan? Yeah, she's kind of is the same. They're kind of similar, but the only difference is that Pela is a 4-star character, and odds are you have a Pela and not have a Black Swan. So because of that, I have to take that into consideration that she's way more accessible. She's been on a million banners since she's been out, and she's extremely strong day one as she is right now. She has not dropped off. If anything, she has come up. Pela is on pretty much every single team that needs a debuffer. Like every single team, she's the #1 option that people look. There's not enough good things to say about Pela. She doesn't need to use her skill. She can implant debuff. If you put the right Lycon on her, she can implant a debuff with her basic attack. Yeah, she implants the biggest AoE defense shred in the game at 40%, and with the right Lycon, that's 56% damage defense reduction, which is the biggest in the game by a single skill. Actually, no, wait. Yeah, the biggest in the game because it's AoE. So Silver Wolves is single target, Pela's is AoE. That's the only thing. So her defense shred is AoE, and with Acheron coming out, Pela and Acheron are pretty much best friends. You want them on the same team at every time because Pela can be played skill point positive, and Acheron is always going to be skill point negative because she wants to always use her skill. There's very niche scenarios where she wants to use her basic, but for the most part, she's always using her skill to get her stacks up so she can ultimate. So applying that defense shred to everybody on the field is actually really strong. She's usually played very speedy, so she's able to inflict the debuff that she needs to, and then also regenerate some skill points. Yeah, Pela's extremely strong, one of the best characters in the game. I just don't understand how other tier lists, I'm not gonna say any names, but we all know who I'm talking about. They have her like all the way like down here. Like it doesn't make any sense. She's on every single team imaginable. So I don't understand how anybody can put her down here, but I mean, to each his own. Everybody can have their own tier list. Guys, just do your own research whenever you run into some tier lists. Even with this one, like don't take my word for it. Go ahead and test them out. Go ahead and look up some videos. Yeah, Pela, definitely one of the strongest characters in the game for sure. Speaking of one of the strongest characters in the game, pretty much the second or first strongest character in the game, Ruan Mei goes directly into S+ tier. She does... There's nothing bad about Ruan Mei. You can't say anything bad about Ruan Mei's kit. She kind of bends one of the core mechanics of the game, which is the toughness bar, and she makes your entire team deal more toughness damage, which is something we're gonna actually see more of in the coming patches, and I'm gonna make a bunch of videos on because I love break effect. I love that whole game style or gameplay style, but Ruan Mei kind of enables a whole archetype of her own with the whole break effect and break efficiency. She deals damage herself with breaks. She doesn't even have to do the break herself. She can have somebody else do it, and she does 120% of her own break damage to the enemy when anybody breaks the enemy. She gives you 68% damage bonus when you have her already built up. She gives you 25% resistance penetration, which those two things are one of the highest damage amplifying boosts that you can get in a single character, as well as the aforementioned break efficiency by 50%. So that means that you're going to break enemies 50% faster, which means more damage because when you break them, she deals damage, and then when she breaks them, she not only freezes them, which is its own form of sustain, but she also deals an extreme amount of damage, kind of like 100,000 90,000 damage per break. So it's kind of insane. Ruan Mei is just one of those characters that it's a game changer. If you have her in your account, it's just like you don't like you can only run her. You don't need anything else in the team as far as supports and as far as harmony and damage amplification characters. She also enables you to run the Ruan Mei in Wealth Sustain comp for, again, teams like Acheron. If you don't have her E2 and you need a second nihility, Wealth can actually work in tandem with your Ruan Mei to enable a sustainless composition of a team because of the weakness breaks and the weakness breaks extensions, because that's another thing that she has. So whenever she breaks an enemy, they recover and then they break again for a little bit as well. So she kind of like delays the enemy so much that it gives you enough time to destroy them. She also gives you speed, which is something that a lot of people don't like gloss over with Ruan Mei. She gives your entire team like 12% speed or 10% speed, which is pretty significant. It's the difference between having 124 speed and 134 speed, which means you get an extra turn per cycle. So Ruan Mei gives you a significant buffs all around. She can be played fast, she can be played slow. She's skill point positive because she gives you you don't need to use her skill point. You don't need to use her skill pretty much like once every 3 turns, and her technique allows her to start with her skill, which means not only you get your ultimate the first turn you enter battle, but you don't have to use skill points for the first 2 turns of battle. So immediately she's already skill point positive, +2 skill point positive. Yeah, Ruan Mei, she's, like I said, she's either the #1 character in the game or the second best character in the game. It's either her or Fu Xuan. Like, One of those two characters is the best character in the game. I don't know which one. Like, she works right out of the box. You need to just throw in a break effect rope. If you're brand new, throw in a break effect rope on her, and then you're set. You're good. You can build break effect as you go along, because you're not going to need it in the beginning of the game. But by the time you get to the end of the game, you're going to get so many break effect pieces that she's going to be cracked. I guarantee it. So yeah, like, not much bad to say about Ruan Mei. Like, she's just insane. All right, next up, Tingyun. Probably the second, or I don't know if she's the best 4-star character in the game or the second best. Like, it's between her and Pela. They're 1-2 combo, 1-2 best characters in the game. So I think these two are pretty much tied in this little placement right here. But Tingyun does something that no other character does except Huohuo, but Huohuo doesn't even do it at the same pace as Tingyun does, because Tingyun can give 60 energy at E6 to one character, and that is very significant for characters that depend on their ultimate to do damage, kind of like Jingliu. Jingliu needs her ultimate to be able to stay in her transformed state. So in a team with Tingyun on it, Jingliu is going to have a much easier time staying in her state, and it's actually going to be very, very beneficial to have a Tingyun on the Jingliu team, same as in Bibido Lune. So in Bibido Lune, especially at E2 and above, he wants his ultimate to be able to do more damage. So Tingyun gives him half his own bar, at least, in energy every time she ults. So she's a battery. She's one of the few batteries in the game. She's actually the first battery we got in the game. And then Huohuo came out, which is another one that's kind of cracked. We already talked about her. But aside from that, she gives you damage bonus, she gives you attack, and then she gives you extra damage whenever she attacks. So whenever you attack, you deal extra damage, kind of like Robin. So she is kind of like a 4-star Robin in the sense. So if you know anything about Robin, Robin does damage depending on when you hit the enemy. So kind of like the same thing Tingyun does. That's pretty much not a big part of her kit. The main part of her kit is that you can battery up your DPS, so they can spam their ultimate as much as possible, and that alone is very, very strong. But aside from that, she gives you a very significant 50% damage bonus for, I think, 2 turns, and then her benediction gives you a significant attack buff depending on how built or how well built you have your Tingyun. So Tingyun, very, very unique kit in the Harmony and supportive realm. She's the only Harmony character that can do what she does, and that is why she is pretty much over here better than Bronya. I think she is better than Bronya at this point, and pretty much interchangeable with Pela when it comes to value to a team. Extremely, extremely strong character right here. All right, next up we got Sparkle, which kind of took over for Bronya. Bronya used to be here, but now that Sparkle came out, Bronya she pretty much took over every single team that Bronya was a part of, except Blade and Jingliu. Sparkle does what Bronya does, but without the skill point issues. Even though it's slightly less damage output, so Bronya's buff are actually stronger than Sparkle's, but Sparkle's skill point efficiency, I don't know, abundance, I should say, because you get so many skill points, you sometimes overcap on skill points. And when I say overcap, I mean you can generate more than 7, because you don't, even though if you use them efficiently, you're going to generate more skill points. So in some teams, Sparkle is just like irreplaceable. For instance, in Bibido Lune, second best DPS in the game, Sparkle is kind of irreplaceable. You can't, there's no other character that can do what she does in that team. There's no other character that does what she does in any team that requires the DPS to use the skill every single turn. So for instance, I use Argenti a lot. Argenti team, Sparkle's irreplaceable. In Bibido Lune, she's irreplaceable. In Sela, she's irreplaceable. QQ, irreplaceable. Zui, irreplaceable. Any DPS that wants to use her skill every single turn, Sparkle's the best support in the game for that character. Aside from that, she gives you the highest crit damage bonus in the entire game, depending on how high you build up her own crit damage. And you can get her crit damage up to like 180, 200, like I have mine. And you're going to get about an 80 to 90% crit damage bonus on your DPS, as well as 44% multiplicative damage bonus aside from the crit damage bonus. She also gives you 15% attack to your team, like independently, like it doesn't matter. She gives you 50% attack to the team. And if the teammates are quantum, she gives you extra attack. Yeah, Sparkle is just incredible. There's nothing bad with Sparkle. She gets her, like, her buffs are up every single turn. Like once you ultimate the first time, you'll never have a turn that you don't have her ultimate, because she generates 30 energy with her basic, 30 energy with her skill, and then her ultimate is 110. So she can just spam the ultimate every 2 to 3 turns. She's just insane. if I had to pick a favorite support character, this is probably my favorite support character. I don't think she's better than Ruan Mei, but they're very, very close. Like they're extremely close. I think she's probably the third best character in the game. Sparkle is just a beast of a character. All right, now we have Yukong. Yukong is the only character in the C tier, and Yukong actually has one of the highest damage amplification skills and ultimate combo in the game. She gives you 88% attack, 10 speed, 30 crit rate, 70 crit damage, and if you're imaginary, she gives you 12% imaginary damage. That is a lot of bonuses that she gets you. And the reason that she is in the C tier is because her kit is so clunky. If you don't have her E6, even more so. So her thing is that the DPS has to go directly after her. It has to be speed tuned perfectly so the DPS can go directly after her for the DPS to take advantage of the buffs. And also the buffs are dependent on her skill. So she has to skill and then the DPS has to go after her. So it has a lot of requirements that makes it really hard for you to use Yukong. If you're able to use her efficiently, she buffs your team, not your team, your DPS. She buffs your DPS to oblivion. She gives you so much firepower, and then she also deals a little bit of damage herself. So if she's one of the ones that you have, I don't recommend investing too much into her unless you have her E6 and unless you have her properly speed tuned with your DPS. If you don't have those two criteria, I don't think Yukong is a character that you want to invest too much into, even though she has one of the highest damage amplification kits in the game. And last but not least, we have the latest character that's supposed to be dropping soon is Robin. I'm going to place Robin right here in front of Pela. I do think she is slightly better, if not the same as Pela and Tingyun. Robin is a strong character. It's a very, very strong character. Her damage output or her overall team impact is similar to Ruan Mei when it comes to damage and clearing. The only reason she's not up here is because she suffers from the same thing Bronya suffers. Her skill point efficiency is just horrid. Her skill point efficiency is just bad. She doesn't have the technique that Ruan Mei has, that whenever you go into the battle with her technique, she uses her skill immediately. If she had that, she would be up here, in all honesty. But she doesn't. So she starts up the fight. She goes first because she gets a action advance in her kit, and then you have to use her skill to get her damage bonus up, which is 50%, which is kind of similar to Tingyun's over here. But she gives you a 50% damage bonus, a lot of attack, and then she also advances your team whenever she ultimates. The thing is that she goes into battle and she uses a skill point, and then when you ultimate, she disappears. She disappears from the action bar. What that means is that not only she's not using skill points, but she's not able to generate skill points. What that means is that you're left your team with 3 characters to generate skill points for the duration of the time that she is in her state. And a lot of the times what you want to do with Robin is get out of her state, skill, and then go back into her state. That's what you want. That's how you want to play her as. But because she doesn't generate any skill points, it's really hard to maintain the skill point efficiency of your team. So there's going to be a point in time where you're going to be running Robin and you're going to run out of skill points if your team depends on skill points. So you can run characters like Pela, for example, or Ruan Mei, for example, that they give you skill points if you have them in the right setup. And if you use them in tandem with Robin, then it'll work out because they'll cancel each other out. So her skill point inefficiency is mitigated by another character's skill point efficiency, if that makes sense. But if you're just going to throw her on any team, like kind of like how you can do Ruan Mei or you can do Sparkle, then it really won't work. But aside from that, Robin is an extremely strong character, and action advance on your entire party is extremely strong, especially for dot teams, because dot teams kind of like depend on that. Follow-up attack teams also depend on that. She opens up a whole new, like, I guess, meta for zero cycle teams, because she can give your whole team a cycle out of nowhere. So if the cycle's about to end and she's the last one and you can get her ultimate, your whole team is gonna get jumped up, and they're gonna get another turn inside of the cycle, which this is gonna give a boner to all of these zero cycle people. All the tryhards are gonna have a Robin boner, because she's gonna enable a lot of those like wacky like speed tuning plays that enable you to get a cheeky extra turn there for your zero cycle. So aside from that, she's extremely strong. Yeah, she only has that one flaw, and that is the only flaw that I can see in her. But other than that, she's insane. She's really good. She's supposed to be releasing either today or tomorrow. So if you're gonna go for her, check out the link in the description to get cheaper Stellar Jades. But that's going to be my tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Is this a W tier list? Is this a L tier list? Let me know in the comment section. And until next time, guys. See ya.